On a foggy October morning in Portland, Oregon, three girls, Lila, 8, Mia, 6, and little Sakura, 5, stepped into the hushed lobby of Pacific Northwest Heritage Bank. Their raincoats dripped steadily onto the dark slate floor. Their rubber boots left small muddy ovals that spread like ink blots. They had walked 3 miles from the Rose City Housing Project because the last $2.75 in bus fare had gone to buy a half-gallon of milk and a loaf of bread the night before. The bank smelled of rain-damp wool, fresh espresso from the executive lounge, and the clean, sterile scent of high-limit wealth. Eleanor Nora Whitaker, CEO of Pacific Northwest Heritage, stood near the private television line reviewing the latest quarterly projections on her tablet. That morning, she had approved the permanent closure of 6 branch offices in low-income neighborhoods across the Multnomah and Washington counties. The decision would save $42 million annually in operating costs, streamline digital-only services, and deliver a clean earnings beat to Wall Street. She felt the familiar, quiet triumph of someone who had climbed out of the very neighborhoods she was now shuddering. The concierge, a polished woman in her 50s named Margaret, approached the girls first. "Hello, little ones. This is a members-only bank. Do you have an appointment or an account here?" Lila, the oldest, clutched a small cloth pouch sewn from an old kimono scrap her grandmother had kept. "Our grandma said to come here and ask about our quiet room." Nora glanced over, amused at first. The girls looked small and soaked against the backdrop of marble columns and brass fixtures. A businessman in a navy suit nearby gave a soft chuckle. Margaret's smile remained professional but distant. "We don't have quiet rooms like a library, sweetheart. Perhaps you're thinking of the public library downtown?" Nora stepped closer, tablet still in hand. "What's this about a quiet room?" Lila met her eyes without blinking. "Grandma said the bank has a quiet room for us. She kept the key. She said if she wasn't here anymore, we should bring it and check our balance." A ripple of quiet laughter moved through the nearby clients. Nora reached into her purse, pulled out a crisp $50 bill, and placed it gently on the floor in front of Lila's boots. "Here, honey, that's more than enough for bus fare home and some hot chocolate. Take your sisters and go get warm." Lila stared at the bill for a long moment. "We're not asking for money," she said quietly. "Grandma said it's already ours." Nora's smile thinned. "Security can help you find the door." "Wait." Lila opened the pouch. Inside lay a single heavy brass key, old-fashioned, tarnished, engraved with the bank's vintage logo from the 1940s and the words "Quiet Room Access." Box 1947, Takahashi Family Trust. A small tag dangled from it, handwritten in careful cursive. "For my granddaughters. Do not open without them present. Hana Takahashi." The lobby fell silent. Nora's breath caught. She recognized the key design instantly. It belonged to the original vault-level Thomas, built in 1928 and partially decommissioned in the early 2000s when the bank digitized most safe deposit services. Only a handful of legacy quiet rooms remained. Anonymous trusts created in the post-war years for families who had lost everything during the Depression, the war, or the internment of Japanese Americans. Nora's grandfather, Harlan Whitaker, had been one of the original signatories on those trusts. In 1947, after Executive Order 9066 forced thousands of West Coast families into camps like Minidoka, the bank had quietly set up reparation-style escrow accounts using seized assets that were later returned or compensated. Nora had inherited oversight of the remaining boxes when her father retired. She had glanced at the files once, seen the low activity, and archived them as dormant historical. She hadn't looked at Box 1947 in 15 years. "Follow me," Nora said, voice suddenly low and tight. She led the girls past the teller counters, through a discreet oak door marked Private Vault Access, down a carpeted hallway lit by soft sconces. Margaret followed uneasy, phone already in hand to alert legal. In the vault antechamber, Nora took the key from Lila and inserted it into the wall panel. A soft chime. The screen above woke. "Safe deposit access. Box 1947. Biometric and executive override required." Nora pressed her thumb to the pad and entered her code. The inner vault door unlocked with a pneumatic hiss. Box 1947 was mid-wall, brushed bronze, untouched for decades. Nora turned both locks. The door swung open. No gold bars, no stock certificates, just two items. A thick cream envelope sealed with red wax, stamped beneficiary note for granddaughters only. A single ledger sheet dated July 15th, 1947, showing the initial deposit $1,250,000 in 1947 dollars from War Relocation Authority Compensation Fund and Asset Recovery Escrow allocated to the Takahashi family, nursery owners, Portland. Current balance line, adjusted for inflation indexing and compound interest, $9,850,000. Zero disbursement in Marnez in 75 years. Nora's knees felt weak. She remembered her grandfather's stories, whispered over Sunday dinners, of the families who came back from camp to find their homes, farms, and businesses gone. The bank had held what little remained in quiet rooms so it could grow safely, away from prying eyes or forced sales. She opened the envelope. Inside was one sheet of hospital stationery, dated 6 months before Hana Takahashi's death from pancreatic cancer. The handwriting was steady but tired. To whoever holds this key now, my name is Hana Takahashi. In 1942, soldiers came to our nursery in Portland. They gave us tags, loaded us on trains, and took us to Minidoka. We lost our home, our greenhouse, our cherry trees, our freedom. When we returned in 1945, everything was gone, sold for back taxes we never owed. Your bank held what little we salvaged in this quiet room. We never touched it. We wanted it to grow for the children who would come after us, the ones who would never have to bow their heads in camps or lines. If my granddaughters, Lila, Mia, Sakura, are standing in front of you, small and wet and scared, please see them. Do not make them invisible. They carry our name, our patience, our hope. They are not asking for charity. They are asking you to remember what was promised. Treat them with the respect you would give your own grandchildren. Hana Takahashi, Portland, 2024. Nora's voice broke on the last line. She read the letter aloud in the vault room, slowly, every simple memory landing like rain on glass. Folding origami cranes in the barracks to keep the children calm, planting seeds in cracked dirt even when they knew they might not see them bloom, singing lullabies in Japanese under the Idaho stars. When she finished, Sakura was clinging to Lila's leg, face buried. Mia wiped her eyes with her sleeve. Nora sank to her knees on the thick carpet, one knee, then both. She picked up the $50 bill Margaret had quietly brought from the lobby, tore it in half, and let the pieces drift to the floor. I failed you, she said, voice raw. I failed your grandmother. I failed every family this bank promised to protect when the world turned its back. Margaret stood frozen in the doorway. A small crowd of clients and staff had gathered in the hall, phones lowered, faces pale. Nora rose. Margaret, secure this vault. Executive hold on box 1947. No access without my direct signature. She turned to the girls. We're going upstairs. Some things shouldn't be discussed in a hallway. In the executive boardroom, long walnut table, rain-streaked windows overlooking the Willamette, Nora sat across from the three girls. She pulled up the trust file on the large screen. The history scrolled. Annual fiduciary reviews skipped after 1995. Disbursement authorizations never processed. Alerts dismissed as historical artifacts. The trust language was clear. Immediate support for housing, education, medical care and guardianship. Principal preserved until age 30. Not 1 cent had been released. Lila asked the question that cut deepest. Why didn't anyone come and find us? Nora had no defense. Because it was easier to forget. Because I looked at spreadsheets instead of stories. Because I thought the past was closed. She called Multnomah County Family Court that afternoon. Emergency hearing expedited to 3 p.m. Nora drove the girls herself with Margaret as witness and notary. In the small courtroom that smelled of rain-soaked coats and old paper, Judge Amelia Reyes listened without interruption. When Nora stood and said, Your Honor, Pacific Northwest Heritage was trustee. We released nothing. I'm asking the court to authorize immediate distributions and appoint an independent guardian ad litem with full oversight authority over this bank's legacy trusts. The judge leaned forward. You're voluntarily inviting external supervision on your institution? Yes, Your Honor. We've proven we cannot police ourselves. The judge signed $15,000 monthly interim distributions effective immediately. Retroactive payments for rent arrears, medical debt, school fees, and guardianship support. Temporary guardian, Aunt Reiko Nakamura, Hana's niece, who had been caring for the girls in a cramped apartment near the project. Back at the bank, Nora called an all-staff meeting in the main atrium. Tellers, managers, executives, even the cleaning crew. She spoke without a podium. 75 years ago, a woman named Hana Takahashi lost everything, her home, her business, her dignity, because her country turned on her. This bank held what remained in a quiet room so it could grow safely. Today, 3 of her granddaughters walked in here wet, cold, and asking one question: what is our balance? I gave them a $50 bill and told them to leave. Many of you witnessed it. Some of you smiled. That ends today. Every dormant, quiet room trust in our system, every single one tied to wartime reparations, internment compensation, or community recovery, will be audited by end of month. Interim payments will be made retroactively. No family will ever have to stand in our lobby to claim what we owe them. Effective immediately, 35% of all executive and board compensation linked to these trusts will fund the Takahashi Heritage Resilience Fund, full college scholarships, mental health services, small business loans for descendants of Japanese American families, and oral history preservation grants. She paused, looking at every face. And one final thing. The next time any child, any person who doesn't look like our typical client, walks through those doors, I expect every one of you to remember today, because a balance isn't just digits on a screen, it's the weight of promises kept or broken. She stepped down, no clapping, just a deep, thoughtful quiet, followed by the sound of laptops opening and phones dialing legal and compliance. In the months and years that followed, 312 quiet room trusts were reviewed. $1.4 billion in delayed principal and interest dispersed to descendants across the West Coast. Aunt Reiko moved the girls into a 3-bedroom house in Beaverton. The trust paid off utilities, covered Sakura's preschool, Mia's violin lessons, Lila's art classes, and family therapy sessions. The Takahashi Heritage Resilience Fund awarded its first 112 scholarships that spring, named after Hana and the thousands who endured Minidoka, Manzanar, and the other camps. A modest brass plaque appeared in the lobby. Some rooms stay quiet so the stories inside can finally be heard. HT. Nora kept Hana's letter folded in her wallet. Every morning she touched it before her first meeting. On the wall outside her office hung a photograph. Her sitting on the living room rug of the new house with Lila, Mia, and Sakura, all 4 laughing origami cranes hanging from the ceiling like floating promises. The $9.85 million did what it was always meant to do. Paid for warmth in winter, books that never ran out, college tours, study abroad programs, in the slow, patient rebuilding of 3 young lives shadowed by history. But the real quiet room that opened that foggy October morning wasn't behind steel doors. It was in Nora Whitaker's heart, the one she had kept sealed for years, convinced that success meant leaving the past behind. Decades later, when reporters asked how Pacific Northwest Heritage transformed from a shuttered branch bank into a community anchor, the answer always began the same way. One rainy morning, 3 little girls walked into this bank to check their balance, and the woman who thought she already knew the number had her entire legacy measured instead. Thank you for staying with this story until the very end. If it moved you even just a little, please leave a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps bring more heartfelt stories to life every single day.